rivers of Babylon, and there we sat. During World War II, Tel Aviv was hit by Italian airstrikes on 9 September 1940, which killed 137 people in the city. The location of Tel Aviv is not the same Tel Aviv's location in the time of the Bible. We know in Ezekiel chapter 3 verse 15 that the Jews then, at the time of Ezekiel, were exiled in Babylon. Hello, what's up everyone? Good morning. It's your boy, the Crackhead, wishing you all a wonderful Sunday. Today, we are going to be looking at the history of Tel Aviv. The Tel Aviv you know today wasn't always like this. Unfortunately, a lot of Israelis who were born here in the state of Israel and the people I have interacted with haven't actually visited Tel Aviv. But as a foreigner, you have no reason not to visit Tel Aviv. In fact, it's just like traveling to France without visiting Paris. It's just like traveling to Nigeria without visiting Lagos. Tel Aviv, one of the most populous city in the state of Israel, is a vibrant city. It's a glamorous city, wonderful and a beautiful city, even though most of you thought it was destroyed during the Israel-Iran war. So today, guys, I'm going to take you back to the history of Tel Aviv during the Second World War. I'm talking about 1939. Tel Aviv was founded in 1909 by Jewish residents and initially given the Hebrew name Ahuzat Bayit, meaning house estate or homestead, of the Jewish Association, which established the neighborhood as a modern housing estate on the outskirts of the ancient port city of Jaffa, then part of Mutasirefet of Jerusalem within the Ottoman Empire. Its name was changed the following year to Tel Aviv after the biblical name Tel Aviv. Now let's get one thing straight here. The location of Tel Aviv is not the same Tel Aviv's location in the time of the Bible. We know in Ezekiel chapter 3 verse 15 that the Jews then, at the time of Ezekiel, were exiled in Babylon. I know most of you who are Christians have probably heard this song by the rivers of Babylon, and there we sat. You know that song, I've forgotten. Now modern day Iraq. It is not the same Tel Aviv's location of the Tel Aviv's location we have today in the state of Israel. Its name was changed the following year to Tel Aviv after the biblical name Tel Aviv, adopted by Nahum Sokolov as the title for his Hebrew translation of Theodor Herzl's 1902 novel Altenaland. Other Jewish suburbs of Jaffa had been established before Tel Aviv, the oldest among them being Neve Tzedek. Tel Aviv was given township status within the Jaffa municipality in 1921 and became independent from Jaffa in 1934. Immigration by mostly Jewish refugees meant that the growth of Tel Aviv soon outpaced that of Jaffa, which had a majority Arab population at the time. In 1948, the Israeli Declaration of Independence was proclaimed in the city, with Tel Aviv named as the founding capital of Israel, a function it retained officially until 1950. During the first Aliyah in the 1880s, when Jewish immigrants began arriving in the region in significant numbers, new Jewish neighborhoods were founded outside Jaffa on the current territory of Tel Aviv. The first was Neve Tzedek, founded in 1887 by Mizrahi Jews due to overcrowding in Jaffa and built on lands owned by Aharon Chuluch. Other neighborhoods were Neve Shalom in 1890, Jaffa North 1896, Akva 1899, Ohel Moshe 1904, Kerem Hatel Manim 1906, and others. Once Tel Aviv received city status in the 1920s, those neighborhoods joined the newly formed municipality, now becoming separated from Jaffa. The second Aliyah led to other expansion. In 1906, a group of Jews, among them residents of Jaffa, followed the initiative of Akiva Area Ways and banded together to form the Ahuzat Bayit Homestead Society. One of the society's goals was to form a Hebrew urban center in a healthy environment, planned according to the rules of aesthetics and modern hygiene. The urban planning for the new city was influenced by the Garden City movement. The first 60 plots were purchased in Kerem Jebel, near Jaffa, by Jacobus Khan, a Dutch citizen, who registered them in his name to circumvent the Turkish prohibition on Jewish land acquisition. Mayor Dizengoff, later Tel Aviv's first mayor, also joined the Ahuzat Bayit Society. His vision for Tel Aviv involved peaceful coexistence with Arabs. On 11 April 1909, 66 Jewish families gathered on a desolate sand dune to parcel out the land by lottery using seashells. This gathering is considered the official date of the establishment of Tel Aviv. The lottery was organized by Akiva Weiss, president of the Building Society. Weiss collected 120 seashells on the beach, half of them white and half of them gray. The members' names were written on the white shells and the plot numbers on the gray shells. By 1914, Tel Aviv had grown to more than 1 kilometer square, 240 acres. In 1915, a census of Tel Aviv was conducted, recording a population of 2,679. However, growth halted in 1917 when the Ottoman authorities expelled the residents of Jaffa and Tel Aviv as a wartime measure. A report published in New York Times by United States Consul Garrels in Alexandria, Egypt, described the Jaffa deportation of early April 1917. The orders of evacuation were aimed chiefly at the Jewish population. Jews were free to return to their homes in Tel Aviv at the end of the following year when, with the end of World War I and the defeat of the Ottomans, the British took control of Palestine. The town had rapidly become an attraction to immigrants, with a local activist writing. Tel Aviv, along with the rest of the Jaffa municipality, was conquered by the British Imperial Army in late 1917 during the Sinai and Palestine campaign of World War I and became part of British-administered mandatory Palestine until 1948. Tel Aviv, established as a suburb of Jaffa, received township or local council status within the Jaffa municipality in 1921. According to a census conducted in 1922 by the British Mandate authorities, Tel Aviv had a population of 15,184, of 15,065 Jews, 78 Muslims, and 42 Christians. The population of Tel Aviv had increased to around 34,000 by 1925. The 1931 census recorded Tel Aviv as having a population of 46,101, 45,564 being Jews, 288 with no religion, 143 Christians, and 106 Muslims in 12,545 houses. With increasing Jewish migration during the British administration, friction between Arabs and Jews in Palestine increased. On 1st May 1921, the Jaffa riots resulted in the deaths of 48 Arabs and 47 Jews, and injuries to 146 Jews and 73 Arabs. In the wake of this violence, many Jews left Jaffa for Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv began to develop as a commercial center. In 1923, Tel Aviv was the first town to be wired to electricity in Palestine, followed by Jaffa later in the same year. The opening ceremony of the Jaffa Electric Company powerhouse on 10th June 1923 celebrated the lighting of the two main streets of Tel Aviv. In 1925, the Scottish biologist, sociologist, philanthropist, and pioneering town planner Patrick Geddes drew up the Geddes Plan for Tel Aviv, a master plan for Tel Aviv which was adopted by the city council led by Mayor Dizengoff. Geddes' plan for developing the northern part of the township was based on Ebenezer's Howard's Garden City movement. The plan consisted of four main features: a hierarchical system of streets laid out in a grid, large blocks consisting of small-scale domestic dwellings, the organization of these blocks around central opening spaces, and the concentration of cultural institutions to form a civic center. While most of the northern area of Tel Aviv was built according to this plan, the influx of European refugees in the 1930s necessitated the construction of taller apartment buildings on a larger footprint in the city. Ben Gurion House was built in 1930-31, part of the new workers' housing development. At the same time, Jewish cultural life was given a boost by the establishment of the Ohel Theater and the decision of Habima Theater to make Tel Aviv its permanent base in 1931. Tel Aviv was granted the status of an independent municipality separate from Jaffa in 1934. The Jewish population rose dramatically during the Fifth Aliyah after the Nazis came to power in Germany. Many new Jewish immigrants to Palestine disembarked in Jaffa and remained in Tel Aviv, turning the city into a center of urban life. Friction during the 1936 to 1939 Arab revolt led to the opening of a local Jewish port, Tel Aviv Port, independent of Jaffa in 1938. It closed on 25 October 1965. Lida Airport, later Ben Gurion Airport, and Sde Dov Airport opened between 1937 and 1938. According to the Jewish Virtual Library, the Jewish population of Tel Aviv had risen to 150,000 by 1937, compared to Jaffa's mainly Arab 69,000 residents, and by 1939 rose to 160,000, which was over a third of Palestine's total Jewish population. The village statistics of 1938 listed Tel Aviv's population as 140,000, all Jews. Many German Jewish architects trained at the Bauhaus, the modernist school of architecture in Germany, and left Germany during the 1930s. Some, like Ariel Sharon, came to Palestine and adapted the architectural outlook of the Bauhaus and similar schools to the local conditions there, creating what is recognized as the largest concentration of buildings in the international style in the world. Tel Aviv's White City emerged in the 1930s and became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2003. During World War II, Tel Aviv was hit by Italian airstrikes on 9 September 1940, which killed 137 people in the city. As a result of this incident, you can now begin to wonder and imagine why the idea came for the Israelis to build and invent the iron. The village statistics of 1945 listed Tel Aviv's population as 166,660, consisting of 166,000 Jews, 300 other, 230 Christians, and 130 Muslims. During the Jewish insurgency in Mandatory Palestine, Jewish Irgun and Lehi guerrillas launched repeated attacks against British military police and government targets in the city. In 1946, following the King David Hotel bombing, the British carried out Operation Sharp, in which the entire city was searched for Jewish militants and most of the residents questioned, during which the entire city was placed under curfew. During the March 1947 martial law in Mandatory Palestine, Tel Aviv was placed under martial law by the British authorities for 15 days, with the residents kept under curfew for all but 3 hours a day as British forces scoured the city for militants. In spite of this, Jewish guerrilla attacks continued in Tel Aviv and other areas under martial law in Palestine. According to the 1947 UN partition plan for dividing Palestine into Jewish and Arab states, Tel Aviv was to be included in the proposed Jewish state. Jaffa, with, as of 1945, a population of 101,580 people, 53,930 Muslims, 30,820 Jews, and 16,800 Christians, was designated as part of the Arab state. Civil war broke out in the country, and in particular between the neighboring cities of Tel Aviv and Jaffa, which had been assigned to the Jewish and Arab states respectively. After several months of siege, on 13 May 1948, Jaffa fell and the Arab population fled en masse. After Israel declared independence on 14 May 1948, Tel Aviv was the temporary government center of the State of Israel. The city was repeatedly bombed by Egyptian warplanes and shelled by Egyptian warships during the Israeli War of Independence, killing around 150 people. The most significant attack was the bombing of the Central Bus Station, in which 42 people were killed. On 3rd June 1948, the Israeli Air Force scored its first aerial victory over Tel Aviv when Israeli fighter pilot Modi Alon shot down 2 Egyptian bombers during a raid. The city was also the scene of fighting between the Israeli Defense Forces and Irgun during the Al Talena affair, in which the IDF stopped the Irgun attempt to import arms for its own use. In December 1949, the Israeli government relocated to Jerusalem. Due to the international dispute over the status of Jerusalem, most embassies remained in or near Tel Aviv. The boundaries of Tel Aviv and Jaffa became a matter of contention between the Tel Aviv municipality and the Israeli government in 1948. The former wished to incorporate only the northern Jewish suburbs of Jaffa, while the latter wanted a more complete unification. The issue also had international sensitivity since the main part of Jaffa was in the Arab portion of the United Nations partition plan, whereas Tel Aviv was not, and no armistice agreement had yet been signed. On 10 December 1948, the government announced the annexation to Tel Aviv of Jaffa's Jewish suburbs, the Palestinian neighborhood of Abu Kabir, the Arab village of Salama, and some of its agricultural land, and the Jewish Hatikva quarter. On 25 February 1949, the depopulated Palestinian village of Al-Shaikh Mowanis was also annexed to Tel Aviv. On 18 May 1949, Manshia and part of Jaffa's central zone were added, for the first time including land that had been in the Arab portion of the United Partition Plan. The government voted on the unification of Tel Aviv and Jaffa on 4 October 1949, but the decision was not implemented until 24 April 1950 due to the opposition of Tel Aviv Mayor Israel Roca. The name of the unified city was Tel Aviv until 19 August 1950, when it was renamed Tel Aviv Yafo in order to preserve the historical name Jaffa. Tel Aviv thus grew to 42 square kilometers. In 1949, a memorial to the 60 founders of Tel Aviv was constructed. In the 1960s, some of the older buildings were demolished, making way for the country's first high-rises. The historic Herzliya Hebrew Gymnasium was controversially demolished to make way for the Shalom Meir Tower, which was completed in 1965 and remained Israel's tallest building until 1999. Tel Aviv's population peaked in the early 1960s at 390,000, representing 16% of the country's total. By the early 1970s, Tel Aviv had entered a long and steady period of continuous population decline, which was accompanied by urban decay. By 1981, Tel Aviv had entered not just natural population decline, but an absolute population decline as well. In the late 1980s, the city had an aging population of 317,000. Construction activity had moved away from the inner ring of Tel Aviv and had moved to its outer perimeter and adjoining cities. A mass out-migration of residents from Tel Aviv to adjoining cities like Petah Tikva and Rehovot, where better housing conditions were available, was underway by the beginning of the 1970s and only accelerated by the Yom Kippur War. Cramped houses conditions and high property prices pushed families out of Tel Aviv and deterred young population from moving in. From the beginning of the 1970s, the common image of Tel Aviv became that of a decaying city as Tel Aviv's population fell 20%. That is a brief history of Tel Aviv, the Tel Aviv you know now. Well, I don't know if to say that the population of Tel Aviv is declining in 2025 because I am not custodian of data of the population census, so I cannot say if it's declining or if it's increasing. I mean the population of Tel Aviv, but the Tel Aviv you know today wasn't the Tel Aviv you knew in the 1880s. You have heard the history, you have heard how they fought, how they established the land, and how the name Tel Aviv came to be. So let us appreciate the city of Tel Aviv. Once again, if you love Tel Aviv, please write in the comment section, I love Tel Aviv with all my heart. It's your boy, the Crackhead, wishing you all a wonderful day. Bye for now.